Podcast, a weekly live show where we explore the power of culture and leadership in business. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers, and we go live every week to learn from each other and hear from other experts about how to effectively champion our team members and ourselves. So join us live every Wednesday on our social networks or subscribe. You can listen to Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, let's champion your culture.
Yo, what's up? What's up? Now, let's champion your culture.
That sounds so good. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you again for joining us here on Champion Your Culture, sponsored by Culture of Good. I'm so glad to have everybody with us. If you're joining us live today and are watching us later on today, we appreciate everybody joining in, whether it's visually or on your Audible platform of choice. We always appreciate when you like, subscribe, rate. It helps us out as well. So we encourage you to do that as well. But Ryan, man, it's good to see you, man. Thank you for showing up here with me. How's your day going? How's your week?
Every hump day. It's been a tough week, man. We had a large client with Culture of Good kind of fall through last second, and was really expecting that to be amazing, man. So I can't say the week has been amazing, but you know, I was telling Brenna yesterday because we found out the bad news yesterday, and I was like, she was like, well, how's your day? And I was like, you know what? It's a great day with a lot of bad shit in it. You know, it's like, I don't want to make the, you know, when we say I had a bad day, it almost gives us a perspective that all that happened in that day was bad, right? Yeah. Like every day, not every day is necessarily like a great day, like, wow, but also like, yeah, shit happens in the middle of it. So thanks for asking. It was a tough one, man. How about for you? Same thing, right? I mean, we're in this together, right? So,
bro, it's, you know, so I've been dealing with a lot of bull over the weekend. I woke up, you know, I was visiting Indianapolis for Mother's Day. A few months ago. You know, we kind of shared this on our podcast. A dear friend of mine is a mentee, Jason Garrett, passed away. And so my wife and I, we wanted to go up to Indianapolis to see my mom and, you know, spend Mother's Day with Jason's, you know, mom and wife, along with his kids who had some, you know, sports activity that we just want to be a part of and show up. That was our, you know, our promise and our word in the passing of Jason. And so I decided, you know, we don't, you know, when I come into town, you know, the great Scott Moorhead, he usually he allows me to stay at his nice condo downtown. This wasn't work related, it was personal. So I thought, you know, let's stay at a nice hotel. And we did so. I won't name the hotel yet because there's still some resolution and I'm hoping that they do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think I should get like lifetime, you know, free stays or something like that. If you're listening out there, just like that. You know, the expectation's high, but I woke up Mother's Day morning and to 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning to alerts on my phone. My Tesla, I got a Tesla, and my doors were open. My trunk was open. It was opening and closing. And there's some activity going on in my car.
Oh boy!
And so I call front desk, and they get down there. And you know, Amber's like, "Hey, you need to go down there and see what's going on. This is more than just, you know, somebody forgot to close the door."
Right.
And then, you know, the valet company decided to one of the employees decided to have 3 of his friends in my white leather, vegan leather seats drinking.
I mean, I'm talking like when you're talking white, you're like they're so bright white they glow in the dark almost. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's brand new white seats. Yeah.
And so you know, they had a little fun in my car and did some things. Obviously, been in the person's car, period. Besides bringing it to the door or taking it to the garage is inappropriate. And so I've been dealing with that since Mother's Day morning, and the resolution is supposed to come this morning. So maybe we'll take a call live. Our first live call may be how to resolve issues within your staff.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure HR probably found out about that really fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
We'll add that to the crazy shit that happens in HR.
Yeah, I was on Mother's Day, and I get a call that one of my employees decided to take.
Yeah, we're sending love to all of you out there that are in HR, those of you that are leading people, obviously. business is a human endeavor and what we do is human, and yeah, dealing with all these things is tough, man. So you're getting it all cleaned up. It's they're resolving it. Let me know if they don't handle it, man. I got friends downtown, I could call Guido, and my cousin Vinny. I'll call my cousin Vinny from Boston.
Wow.
From Boston.
Boston.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been one of those weeks, man. And I know that some of you out there are having one of those weeks as well. And we just, just so everybody knows, we're all dealing with it.
Yeah. We in it together. Listen, we win together, we never lose alone.
We're in it to win it.
In it to win it.
So yeah, absolutely. There's this this idea of being able to go to work and love what you do and love life and love, and there's this picture of what we want work and life to be like, and then in the middle of all of that is all of this other stuff, right? And how we deal with all that other stuff through the week and our personal lives, and how we bring that into work. That's a big thing, man. I mean, life is stressful,
Yeah.
when you can't just stay at a hotel. Have you ever been to a hotel and it's like, I travel quite a bit for keynote speaking, and as you do with workshops, shameless plug, if you are looking or planning an event in the future, don't forget George and I. We can come as a unit or as a going solo. But I hate when I get to a hotel and it's like 2 in the morning. One time I had a plane that was delayed and I had to wait till the next morning. So, they graciously gave me a hotel. No kidding. I get to the hotel. It's like 1 in the morning. And at this point, I've got adrenaline buzzing, right? So like I'm up to like 3. I know I have to get up at 6 in order to go. I shit you not. 4 o'clock in the morning, what goes off? The fire alarm. I was like, this isn't, and I'm speaking the next morning. It's a whole thing. So, or not that morning, not the next morning, that morning. So yeah, it's it's always fun dealing with life on the road,
Yeah. There's always I always say expect the unexpected, but sometimes you just don't prepare for the unexpected, because every once in a while we just want things to go as they should, right? Go as we hope they should go, without any unexpected issues, but things happen. And, as the old adage goes, life moves on, right? It just like
it just moves on
to the next. Like, this was, it didn't destroy me. It frustrated the fire out of me. It took, our potential client situation took a little bit. It was a good gut punch. We were excited about it, the opportunity, and the preparation and everything that you invested a lot of, more time than I did in the preparation of that. But hey, what's not for you is not for you, and what's for you will come to you. So whoever is out there that's looking for leadership development, coaching, executive leadership coaching, and or workshops, our keynote speaking, there's no senseless plug there. That's just the truth. This is what we do. It's what we're passionate about doing. Everything that you hear or see here on this podcast is things that we've applied and put into organizations, whether it was our own, our partners, or just other companies out there, all the way. I mean, we're talking industries. People say, what industries are you in? We've been in transportation. We've been in manufacturing, a lot of trade association type things, software companies, tech companies, wireless retail companies. So it's leadership, culture, workplace culture. Where people are, so shall we be.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, George, too, like for any of our listeners, we're giving a 15% off right now. So we have a 2-day training coming up in Fishers, Indiana. So that's like the Indianapolis area. And we have the 2-day training for any culture leaders. Those are leading people. And you may want to begin introducing a culture of good and launching a culture of good where you're giving back to community, employees are caring for one another and the customers, building a culture of good. Those 2 days will equip you with the training and tools that you'll need. That's 15% off right now. So I just want to mention that if you go on our website, use code COG15 when you check out. It's $1,000 for the 2 days. It's in person. George and I are going to be here doing the workshop. So not only are you able to listen to us on this podcast? You can actually come get trained to bring this back into your business and do this work, right? It's one thing to talk about it. It's another to do it. So COG 15 is 15% off those 2 days on July 11th and 12th. George, one of the best things about dealing with a lot of issues in life is you can still sometimes laugh about it. You can't always laugh. There's that toxic positivity, but when you laugh, you know, the beauty of laughing,
Share with me.
People don't know whether you're happy or crazy. So keep laughing out there, y'all, and hopefully you're encouraged by getting on with this every single week and hearing these different topics, everything from culture, leadership development. How are we championing not only ourselves, our team, and our entire organization? So today's topic is really important. It's all about being proactive, having a plan for dealing with substance abuse issues in the workplace. You know, George, this month is the month of May, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's a month that we're able to take a moment and step away sometimes from our everyday work and ask questions to ensure that we're really prepared for when our team members need us the most. You know, we put a lot of policies in place, and I think it's really important also to plan for the fact that we have humans working for us. And I spoke with my good friends in Sherm in Southern Indiana this past week, and let me tell you something. You know, just the amount of different roles that HR people and those of us that lead within business have to take on, even if you're not in HR. All of us that are leading teams, you understand if you're a leader in any way, you have to wear many hats. Some days you're a counselor. Some days you're a detective trying to find what's going on. Some days you're a therapist. It feels like a coach. Other days you're having to be a disciplinarian and put down the law and say, these are the rules. This is a policy. I'm sorry, you have to abide by this, you know? And for those of you that are leading in business, you know, within all of those roles, it's best to have a plan in place for how we best support our team members. You know, George, last week we talked about being ready and prepared as best as we can for the prevention and postvention of suicide in the workplace. And I think that's a really important topic. Wrote a blog about it this last week and published that about we need to talk about this stuff. And today's topic is the same. We need to talk about substance abuse in the workplace and really provide our employees an opportunity to find the support they need when they need it, right? And also protect the company as well. So we're looking at the well-being, protecting the well-being of the individual, protecting the well-being of the team, and the well-being of the organization. Because substance abuse not only impacts the individual, it impacts the team and the entire company. And so we have to be mindful of these things and be ready, proactively ready, because we know there really is no such thing as a drug-free workplace, right? Like that doesn't exist.
Yeah, you know, I was when we were diving into this topic, Ryan, and preparing for it, you know, I started looking into it, and we were talking about how this is not new to us. You know, we talk about this, but the more we study, obviously, and thanks to Lighthouse Research and Advisory and other research companies and firms, you know, we're studying this. We're learning even more. It's fresh information, fresh data. And one of the things that really stood out to me when we're talking about the substance abuse in the workplace, and I was somewhat shocked with it, how much of a major issue that it is and can be, because it not only impacts the individual, right, but it also the productivity and the safety of the workplace. And I believe it was the National Safety Council recent research said that 15.6 million people in the U.S. are struggling with alcoholism. Of those 15 plus million people, 75% of those people are employed.
Yeah. Well, you're talking that age group that's That's the workforce age, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
when you're talking about those things, it makes it really crucial for employers, leaders alike, to really address. And we hope to bring some light to this, and maybe some key points to really kind of focus on when it comes to substance abuse in the workplace, and provide some type of support to your employees as you listen to this. What are some things and some strategies for employers that they can do to really provide hope and solutions for those that are in need? Not necessarily, and I want to make sure we that I, at least, and I know that you support what I say, but I want to make sure we spotlight that we don't talk about this, Ryan, for the benefit of the profit of the business.
Yeah.
When we talk about these things, especially with mental health and the things that come with it, the effects of it, and things of that nature, it's for the benefit of people, right? We have to look at it with a different view. Although yes, it affects productivity in the workplace, it affects a lot of things within the workplace. We do this, one, because we're human and we should care about people. We should be human resources for
Yeah.
those who are in need, right? That's the HR. What does that mean? What does it look like? Listen, at the end of the day, we have to be human. And this is why I said last week, man, I want to be there to support those who are HR leaders, because it's not just the title, it's not just some paperwork and legal stuff you have to. It's the caring, really, the burden of people that are in your care on the day to day, and this is one of the topics that are important.
Yes. Yeah, I think early on we have to again understand that there's no such thing as a drug-free workplace, right? So
Yeah,
there are drugs being used, and there is the reality of not only illicit drugs, alcohol. So there are legal drugs as well that are being used that can impair the decision making, impair behavior, all of that. So we have to start recognizing that this isn't something that can possibly be something we need to address at some point. But if we start addressing it now and begin to set things into place and plan for these moments where we are interacting with an employee, with a team member that either comes to us or we recognize, or someone else observes potentially drug use on the job, or we see, there's indicators within our team. So if we see someone that is dealing with a lot of absenteeism, right, or maybe the failure to meet productivity levels, like you see someone's work being impacted, does not mean that they're using either illicit drugs or legal drugs within the workplace, but it could, right? So we understand that if there is someone observing drug use, obviously that would be the main indicator. But if we have these other, if there's potentially workplace accidents or a safety incident, if people are disappearing, if team members are just disappearing unexpectedly, and just kind of like, where'd Bill go? And Bill's gone for a while. If you start to see behavior that's not normal, or things that kind of stand out that point in the direction of there being some form of issue, it could be anything from something going on in that person's life, dealing with something at home. It could be that they're dealing with a mental health crisis, or just mental health issues, or it also could be drug use. And so it's really important that we address this with a team member immediately, right? So if we see anything or have question about anything, it's really important to go to that team member and just make sure that they know they're supported through it, and begin that conversation with them to ensure that if need be, there be testing that's done to ensure that, yeah, if there are all of these indicators as a whole, then it's really important that we as a leader in HR, or bringing that to HR, that we ensure that that's being taken care of. Because at the end of the day, we're really responsible not just for the individual's health, but the health of the team, like I said, and the organization. It impacts not only that individual, but that substance abuse also has a ripple effect that impacts the team, as you can imagine, and obviously because the team is impacted, the organization is impacted, and could lead to a safety issue, could lead to an accident, that type of thing. Which, if we know that there's an issue, we would be liable for. So there are laws in place as we're talking about this. We're talking more than just concept and theory. Obviously, if you're in HR, you really need to know the law, and I would encourage you to look up the American Disabilities Act, Americans with Disabilities, the ADA, and ensure that you have everything that you need in place to make sure that when you have a situation where there is substance abuse in the workplace, you know the steps to handle that, because that's really, really important. You talk about uh, protecting the organization, how you deal with a substance abuse issue with an individual matters in terms of the law. I'm losing you, brother. Are you there?
I am. So
Okay.
I muted because I got the solo drummer next door. He's
Oh
beating
yeah,
on my,
he's
so
beating
I
the hell
muted
out
him.
of his drums.
Yeah, gotta love it. So I got live music in the background for us today. Hopefully
Yeah,
my smart mic blocks it out.
we
But
can't hear it. Just keep
yeah,
talking.
we're
You're fine.
gonna cover I'm interested as we discuss some of the recent studies, and I want to get into what employers need to do about the substance abuse in the workplace. But I think it's time, Ryan, for everybody's favorite segment. I
Yeah,
think before we get too deep into that, are you ready for today's
let's do
special?
it. We got a few stories for the segment brought to you by Culture of Good. It is the favorite segment of all of our listeners. Crazy shit in HR. So here's an HR person on Reddit. Um, and this is Odesio, Odesio. I had an employee who had only begun with us for about 6 months, was on the verge of being terminated for frequently being tardy to work. She was scheduled to meet with her manager in HR that week and decided to preemptively visit us in order to plead with us for her job. We chatted for a bit, and I let her know that I had no idea what we were meeting was about or whether she was scheduled for termination. Her. So this is her, the individual talking. How was I supposed to know I was to be work on time? Me is the HR person. It's our policy. You've had other jobs before. Didn't they expect you to be at work on time? Her. But I'm new here. How was I supposed to know where to find the policy? Me. Even if you don't know where to find the policy, you knew after the first warning that frequent tardies were unacceptable and that the point should have been reinforced after your. You shouldn't be explaining this to people, right? She was terminated.
Hey, this is something that you have to explain nowadays because, listen, if you don't tell me I'm supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. Like
It's true.
I know that you said that we're open from 8 to 5,
Yeah.
but you didn't say like I had to be here. It was subjective,
Yeah.
I think a lot of this, Ryan, it goes to
Communication.
like when you're at home, like communication is important because when I was at home, I just woke up at 8 o'clock
Right.
and got to my computer. Now you're telling me to wake up earlier and
Yes.
get here at 8 o'clock. You don't
Right.
pay me like that's another argument. Should I get paid for my preparation before work?
Especially if you spend the first hour or 2 working from the bathtub. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
understand that. I
So
understand that. All right.
what in the world?
This one's pretty crazy because you know it's craziest shit in HR.
Yeah.
This is Sweet Fire 009. We had an employee who
Yeah.
rolled up.
The name is good. The name is good.
We had an employee who rolled up their feces into little balls and lined them up on the toilet seat, evenly spaced apart. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
the best.
done. I would quit that day. I would absolutely quit. I mean,
Hey, as a person who struggles now, I don't struggle with
don't try to
feces.
explain this, because if you start to explain this, all of our listeners are gonna think you're crazy. All right.
I'm just saying, like my shoes, Like everything has to be spaced, like the OCD of organization.
Oh, so this was the OCD of,
Yeah,
we
they're
every once in a
just
while, if
organizing
you're
their shit.
HR,
Like they're dealing
somebody's
with shit. They're dealing with it at work. They're just
okay.
trying to organize it at
Okay.
in the
This is
bathroom.
this is the issue. This is the guy who smears shit all over the bathroom, but he has OCD. All
It
right,
clearly
last one.
says that he lined them up perfectly, evenly
Perfect.
spaced apart.
All right, last
That's
one.
organization. Organizational change management right there.
Right. This is hashtag boy mom life.
Go on.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I had to term an employee. The conversation went like this: Employee, why are you firing me? Me, because you peed on our building. Employee, it was an emergency. Me, we have bathrooms, but I was outside on my break. We have bathrooms. I was on break, so why are you firing me? Because you peed on our building. But I was on a break. You peed on our building. You're still fired. But I was on a break. Can I do what I want on my break? Me, you cannot pee on our building. I was like, yo, that's some crazy. And everything's on video now. So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I end with that. That's the craziest
So
shit.
what happens off the clock doesn't stay off the clock, is what you're telling me.
Well, you can't pee, yeah, you can't, even if you're on break, you can't pee on the outside of the building. You can't roll your poop up and line it up on the toilet. It's just shit you can't do. So again, friends, that's the craziest shit in HR. Of course, every week it's brought to you by Culture of Good.
What if you can do more with your leadership team? What if you can empower them to make a bigger impact faster? As leaders, we know that we have to be good at a lot of things, but what if we can do less and let our teams do more?
That's exactly where Culture of Good comes in. We offer solutions for every step of the culture and leadership development process, from strategy and workshops to buy-in processes, so that you can empower your employees to fulfill their purpose and make an impact on your company. We believe in empowering people, and that's why we're offering 10% off our Culture Champion certification for any team who mentions Champion Your Culture when they reach out to us on cultureofgood.com. Reach out to us today. I want to mention that it's actually not 10%. We've increased that to 15% for our listeners. So listeners, if you jump on to cultureofgood.com today and register for our 2-day training, it's in person, July 11th and 12th. If you need to be virtual, let us know. We're looking to figure out a solution for that. But if you're able to make it to Indianapolis on July 11th and 12th, George and I are both going to be here running workshops for those 2 days to train and provide the tools for 12 months of launching a culture of good and doing this work. It's not hard work, but it's purposeful, it's meaningful, and it gives employees a sense of purpose every single day. So reach out to us on cultureofgood.com about that. George, this topic on being proactive with substance abuse in the workplace, how do we begin to take those steps, right? Because we know, as I mentioned before the break, that there's really no such thing as a drug-free workplace. So we understand that also the increase since the pandemic of substance abuse at home, alcoholism, and drug use during work hours because of the remote work, right? And the increases through the pandemic of anxiety, stress, depression, and how our mental health um, was tested and pressed to the limit during those times where we didn't have the support of our friends, didn't have a community, even friends at work and coworkers, right? And so many people turn to substances to help cope, to deal with the anxiety, the depression, the stress of life, of loss, of dealing with the everyday stressors that we face. On top of that, exacerbated because of the pandemic and other reasons. Listen, this isn't a topic that's going away. If anything, it's increasing, and I think
Yeah.
it's past time. Really, being proactive means that we have to begin putting things into place now to provide the support when our team members need it, and being active in leadership and leading in this way means that we have to start having these conversations sooner than later.
Yeah, it's so much where we can start, Ryan, and I don't want to start at the traditional. For me, I don't want to keep on beating a dead horse in the sense of saying, hey, well, leaders, this is a focus for us. But in all actuality, when it comes to finding some of these strategies for me, and really transitioning and making the impact on our people's lives, that accountability is important, Ryan, and holding them to that accountability. But then you first start saying, what are we holding them accountable to, right? It goes back to the policy. I didn't know that I had to show up on time. I didn't see the policy. I didn't know where to find the policy. Having that clear communication. One of the things that we did in our retail stores, when we had our 18 locations, Genius Phone Repair back in Indiana and Michigan, one of the things that we did, we did main events. We did like 4 of them a year, but through those main events, we had, once a month calls, huddles for everybody to kind of jump in. And in the fall, we did things like The Biggest Loser, where we had people team up and we did weight things. We had accountability for people to quit smoking. So if you were smoking and I held you accountable, you got paid X amount of dollars for stop smoking in 30 days. I got paid for holding you accountable to that, and that created that engagement and accountability piece with your peer to peer. But we wanted to make sure that the people understood that we cared about them and their health. And so there's ways to really communicate these things through your substance abuse policy, right? That's really where you start. It's having a policy in place when it comes to having some strategies for employers that they can really, you should be able to establish those and that accountability in regards to the substance abuse in the workplace. It includes the guidelines on what your expectations are, what your accountability pinpoints are, how we're going to hold you accountable and make sure that you are doing good, because a better you is better for us as a team. And ultimately, also with those, whether posters and things of that nature, but let's face it, and I'll be honest, maybe I'm not going to blame this generation that's coming. I'll say it's me, because my attention rate for posters, you start seeing so many of them that you forget about it, right? But speak the language of your people. This goes back to me understanding what really gets to Ryan. When I need to communicate with Ryan, is it an email? Is it a text message? Is it a phone call? What's the situation will determine which one of those three I will do for you, right? Like if it's not an emergency and I need you to get your attention, whenever you get time, I'm going to email you. If I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you, or there's something, I'm going to text you. If I really need you, I'm going to call you, and I'm not just going to call you once. I'm going to call you twice if you don't answer that first one. So you know that it's real, right? And so understanding each person and how they speak, providing that to them, not expecting them. There's people out there that don't like to read. And quite frankly, and I'm not saying this in a demeaning way, some people cannot read. Right. And so how do we educate and hold them accountable and show them the structure of policies while we're doing these training sessions and things, and having online resources for them? That goes back to what you were talking about last week with offering those EAPs and confidential programs, right? The counseling, the treatment, and the support services for their needs, to be able to hold them accountable. Because sometimes, in all honesty, two things. Sometimes the pressure of leadership, and specifically maybe in HR, having to learn, be trained on all these different things, it becomes overwhelming. It's sometimes better for you to partner, your organization to partner with somebody that says, hey, this is what they do, this is who they are, we're going to provide these services, and not feel like the pressure is always on us as leaders to become something that we're not, or educate ourselves on more and more. And it takes our time away from what we should be doing to help our team and our company thrive at a high level.
Yeah, I think to your point too, when you talk about, you had like a quarterly kind of all group event, sometimes that would be fun. There'd be impact involved, really, thinking about the aspects of an employee's experience at work, and thinking about what are we doing overall for the well-being of our employees, and substance abuse, and having those conversations can be folded into or crafted into your quarterly conversations about well-being, right? So, all right, this is what we offer. This is our EAP program, ensuring that it's not just posters on a wall. Those things are important. But we want to make sure that we're having these conversations, that we're connecting with employees, that we, as leaders, have enough of a relationship with each one of our team members where we've built enough trust, where if they need to come to us with an issue that they're facing. I think a lot of people are just afraid, right? They don't
Yeah.
they don't want to come, talk to their supervisor about it, and they may not. And certainly there's nothing we can do if we find out that there's an employee that potentially could be using substances off the job and it's not impacting their work. And then we have complexities in state laws, and as professionals, we need to know what those laws are. As companies, we need to guard and protect our company, and also protect that employee. I mentioned ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. That protects that employee if they are willing to get help. Obviously we can't continue to protect an employee who's not willing to get help, but if there is that, if they've given permission to you as a leader to be a part of that process and to support them throughout that experience, from drug testing to helping them find a place to recover and to be able to find the resources and the help that they might need. Those things are really important, but we have to know that the employee themselves are protected by that Americans with Disabilities Act. And as a company, we're also protected. So we have to be able to consider a lot of moving parts when it comes to this conversation. But when we do discover that there is substance abuse in the workplace, again, the key is to address it sooner than later, immediately. Make sure that there's before you address it, that there's a plan in place on how are we going to support this employee? How are we, and that could mean meeting with the senior leaders and getting a plan in place and having those conversations quarterly. When was the last time an owner or a senior leader got up in one of those huddles and said, we also want to mention that your well-being matters to us, and we want you to know that if you're struggling in any area of life, in this area or that area, with suicide or drug use, or whatever it is, we want you to know that this is why we have this in place, not because we care just about your productivity, but we care about you as a human being. Like, we really do care. And because of that, we want you to know this is what to do in this situation. When there is substance abuse, or you're facing that, or there's crisis, here's where you can turn to help. Here's who you can call. Here's who you can talk to. Here's who you should be able to have a conversation with. And all of that, we know that needs to be, that employee needs to be supported through that process, and that they know what the plan is. How are we addressing well-being overall? Substance abuse needs to be something that we proactively address in a way that we have a plan to handle it, and then we stick to that plan, right?
Yeah.
So we know that this is the policy, this is the plan, this is our procedure, right? This is the procedure when we deal with substance abuse in the workplace. But we have to be proactive about this. We can't just address it as the problem comes. We'll cross that bridge when it comes. You guys, yeah, every business is on the bridge already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the case. Hey, Ryan, let's as we're getting close to our time, I really want to dig in on this last point on providing, because I want people to be able to, especially our leaders here, I want them to be able to walk away.
Sure.
This word it's been two words have been my life, I guess, for the last 2 months. But how can leaders truly show up when they recognize the substance abuse, when it's impacting a team member's work, whether, and sometimes the biggest struggle is that sometimes as a leader, it's not necessarily always those who are beside you, or, people may say below you. I hate using that term, but it may be frontline workers, right? But in all actuality, a lot of this accountability could be C-suite and above, right? It could be those who may be above you as a leader. But how can leaders truly show up when they recognize these things and are concerned about the well-being of their teammate, whether it's a leader that's above them or whether it's a co-employee or co-teammate that they work along with on the front lines? What are some ways that we can show up for each other?
Yeah, let's talk about it. And first I want to say the reason we show up is because we see that someone's being impaired at work.
Yeah,
Right. So if someone's being, if they're not being impaired at work, it's none of our business. And unless they bring it to us,
yeah,
right? We bring it to them when it becomes a work issue. When it's not a work issue, it's not an issue. So I just want to say that after this podcast, don't go around and, if somebody's, failing a little bit or not hitting their marks as much as they were, all of a sudden you're just like, trying to look through their drawers, making sure they're not using drugs,
yeah,
right? Like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about professionally having a plan in place. So, what we talked about is having a strategy and then sticking to that strategy. So the first thing that we need to do is actually have a conversation with that employee, right? We
yeah,
need to have a conversation and say, here's what we've noticed, or someone brought this to our attention. They saw, or, smelled this or saw this, or you were doing this, or we noticed that you were impaired at work, or there was this accident. We just want to make sure for the well-being of you and those around you that this is not an issue, and giving them the opportunity to be vulnerable enough to share that with you. And
yeah,
also that they know what your expectation is and what their expectation should be, as they bring that to you, right? So
right.
they understand very clear up front that if you ever bring this issue to us, that you're also protected, your job is protected, as long as you're willing to go get help, right? Because
Yeah,
what we want is our employees to be healthy. We want them to be well. I think in a very practical sense, George, when we talk about what do we need to do, if I notice that there were issues with you, or you were impaired in your work, or you weren't able to, or I saw that there were a lack of production on your end, and I wanted to address that with you, we would have that conversation, and it wouldn't be an awkward conversation to have, because I know that there's been trust built, right? And I think that's a really important thing, that to be proactive means that we've built enough trust that when there is an issue, to your point, that we're able to address that and have that conversation with that employee.
Like one of the things that I'm thinking about, and as you're talking around, I'm hearing confidentiality. I'm hearing make sure that you are, going and leading with empathy versus judgment with this person, and as you express concerns and offer their support. When I think about those things, again, it's all tied into relationships and making sure that the approach of the situation, as you said, is a private conversation that should start with just you and that individual. Now, if it escalates and there becomes issues and more concerns or more signs, then there's some accountability there. You have to bring in somebody else to say, hey, this is an issue, and there was concerns and things of that nature. There's ways to walk through that accountability and support for a person. When I add to it, I say the resources that you provide has to be beneficial as well, and that when you're having that conversation, and I've been here a time or two. When it comes to these conversations, and they're tough, right?
Yeah.
Because you have, especially if you have a relationship with that person as a team member, because sometimes for them, for me, it's easy, but for many people, it's very difficult when you get connected with somebody to be able to separate. Oh, this is George, that full of energy, motivating. He's caring, to a really tough conversation, and sometimes what is come across as I hope as empathy and compassion for them as an individual can come across as judgment and who do you think you are, to bring this up. And so making sure, for me, I always try to make sure that the expectations are very clear in my communication on why I'm having this conversation and what I hope and desire for that person. If and I say if, because, having a good weekend and Monday you come in struggling, right? That's all right. Please be honest with me. Like, if something's going on, are you struggling? Because it could just be, hey, I had a heck of a weekend.
Sure.
And it's no issue.
Sure.
Or there could be some other things.
Yeah.
And if it's something that is a serious matter, you want to make sure that, as they're going on, to understand their expectations from the work performance and attendance, goals and things of that nature, and really be flexible. And when I say that, what I mean by that is providing flexibility to your team who are struggling. If it's a serious matter that there is some struggle with substance abuse, offering some flexibility that kind of aligns with work schedule / hey, we're providing support. So if you're doing support, I've seen companies and mid-part companies that, hey, you're going to work 5 or 6 hours, but part of your last 2 hours, because we want to support you, is we've offering these opportunities.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't impact like the safety of coworkers, right?
Right.
Well, and I think it's really important, because we're not just talking to HR people. So it's important to get HR involved immediately. That's what HR is there for. It's important to know state laws. It's important to have a process in place, as we've been talking about. Be proactive about it. You've heard this series on mental health awareness, and this month and this week on substance abuse. Do you have a policy in place? Not only do you have a policy in place, do you have a procedure? And to your point, George, do people know what to expect and how to find help and how to reach out and who to reach out to and all of that? Also knowing your state laws and making sure that you have a process in terms of if there is an issue with that employee with substance abuse and illicit drugs in the workplace, that you have a way to do drug testing, right? To be able to ensure that if you need to do a drug or alcohol test, that you have that in place, as long as your employee policy is in place and that that's part of the policy and the procedure. These are things that we should be sharing with our employees. So again, posters are great. Having policies and procedures are great. If you don't have that, that's where you start. Be proactive about it, and then start talking, right? Have conversations with employees about their well-being. Bring it up. Talk about these touchy topics that are a reality in each one of our workplaces, for our employees' sake, for our team, and for the organization, so that they can find the help that they need and the support throughout the process. Ideally, what takes place is that if they need to take a leave from work to be able to go to rehab, that's what ADA is there for. That's the law, right? We as a company afford them that opportunity to come back to work if they're willing and they participate in that. And so you need to know your state law, you need to know your work policy and procedure, and your employees need to know where to find help and where to find support throughout that process. When you see an issue, make sure that you have built enough trust with that employee that if you need to talk to them or you need to bring HR into it, that you can have those conversations, right? We're building trust. And that's that culture of leadership where we have those conversations that are difficult conversations, but they're conversations that we can have that can really help and support those employees that are struggling. And let me tell you something, mental health and the struggle is more and more real, and it's increasing more and more, not just with remote work, but workers in person are coming into our workplace. Substance abuse, alcohol abuse, this is something that we need to talk about. It's a topic that needs to be addressed, but we can't do it without our employees knowing that they're not going to get punished if they say, hey, I've got an issue and I need help. If people cannot say, I need help, then we have an issue in our workplace. We have got to create a culture of leadership where people can come to us if they need to.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Hey, I think that's a perfect way to stop what we're doing and end it there, Ryan. There's a lot more that we can do. If you're interested in more information or to reach out and have this discussion a little bit more on a deeper level, if you're interested in having Ryan and I come and do a workshop on there, you're at your organization or company, please reach out to us at cultureofgood.com. We appreciate everybody again joining us here on Champion Your Culture, the podcast sponsored by Culture of Good. Before we leave, just one more reminder. If you are leading culture and people in your workplace, and you want to become a certified culture champion, Culture Good, we're going to be doing July 11th and the 12th in Fishers, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana area. July the 11th and 12th is a Tuesday, Wednesday. You get to see Ryan and I in person and spend a 2 days with us in all things creating a culture good and be able to take that back with you. Listen, we've done several of these. We have culture champions all over. In many industries, and we're excited about this opportunity to be able to potentially have you join us. So whether you listen to us right now live and or listening on the audio platform of your choice of this podcast, we appreciate your support. And if you're interested in more information about this, you can also email me at george@cultureofgood.com personally, and I'll respond accordingly. If you're looking for more information, have a discovery call on what this all entails. But one thing that I can promise you is that when you come, you will leave with the tools. You actually leave with a workbook and a playbook to go back and implement this thing that has really impacted organizations from all over, starting with the great TCC. And we can share more about that in the future, about the details of what this impact meant to TCC. I know that we have a special guest potentially coming up at episode 50 as well. Ryan, so we're excited about that. So a lot more fun and interesting things coming up on the horizon as we continue this. Next week, we do have a special guest. Ryan, we got a special guest as we end our last segment of for this mental health awareness focus this month. And so we appreciate everybody there. Ryan, you got anything to take us off with, man? I've been talking.
Nah, that's all. Just make sure you put COG15 as a code when you're checking out to register for July 11th and 12th. And as always, we'd love to see you back here next week, Hump Day on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. As always, we love y'all. And we'll see you back next week on Champion Your Culture. Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us on Champion Your Culture podcast today.
We're so excited that you're here and want to invite you to connect with us. You can watch the show weekly on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and listen anywhere you get podcasts.
Subscribe today to get new relevant content each week on how to champion yourself and your team. Thanks again for listening to Champion Your Culture.